up? What's up? What's up? It's on my ass once again. Thank you for tuning in. Good morning. It's 9:34 on my end. It's May 12th. End the rent now. Noah, who declined to give his last name, participates in an April 1st demonstration with the LA Tenants Union and its supporters in Boyle Heights. Democrats in the California Senate are proposing a plan to allow struggling tenants to pay their short-term rent over as long as a decade. Woo! Don't let them pass that bill. Ain't nobody going to be paying the rent ever. All right. This is per the LA Times. This came through at 3 a.m. John Myers. It's my first time reading it, dear readers. So my apologies to you if I mispronounce some things, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be on point. California considers unprecedented $25 billion economy recovery fund, rental relief. Two unprecedented proposals to help Californians weather the fiscal storm unleashed by the coronavirus crisis are expected to be unveiled Tuesday by Democrats in the state Senate. One to help struggling renters, the other to create a $25 billion economic recovery fund by issuing long-term vouchers to those willing to prepay their future state income taxes. Oh, what a great idea. Do you want to pay you want to prepay your future tax? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, dear reader. This is bull. Shizzle. My goodness. I'm gonna start looking for a house outside of the state and then come back when we have a Republican or maybe a Libertarian Green Party freaking governor, because the Democrats are running this state to the ground, man. I'm sorry. Let me let go of my bias real quick and just read this to you. Taken together, the ideas suggest lawmakers are willing to launch never-before-tried experiments to avoid the unpaid debts and deep cuts to government services that resulted from the Great Recession more than a decade ago. We need some short-term assistance, said Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins, a Democrat out of San Diego, in an interview with the Times on Monday. But we've got to be thinking long-term on how to do this in a very strategic way. The proposals are scheduled to be formally unveiled Tuesday morning in Sacramento, 2 days before Governor Gavin Newsom sends lawmakers a plan to erase a short-term budget deficit that could total more than $54 billion. Neither the Renter Assistance Program nor the Economic Recovery Fund would have a direct effect on the state budget in the coming weeks and months. Still, lawmakers believe both ideas could boost California's shattered economy. The unconventional effort to help renters would ask landlords to forgive rent payments in exchange for equally sized tax credits spread out over a 10-year period starting in 2024. The tax credits would be transferable, meaning the property owner could sell them to an outside investor and get cash immediately. Oh, wow. Okay, this is where we're heading. This is a substantive proposal that protects those who are struggling to afford their rent and also keeps rental properties from going into foreclosure. State Senator Stephen Bradford, out of Gardena, another Democrat, said that this equitable strategy will keep people housed. Man, so I'm just going to pause real quick, dear reader. This is, if you want to come to California and not pay rent for like 10 years, come on by, everybody. Some local governments have already stepped up to address concerns about renters being evicted during the public health crisis, promoting a variety of rental assistance programs. Pending legislation at the state capitol also seeks to prevent evictions during the corona state of emergency, which was declared by Newsom in March and has no targeted end date. The exact number of troubled renters is unclear. As of 2018, there were 17 million renters in California, and more than half of them were rent burdened. Under the Senate proposal, tenants would agree to reimburse the state for the rent payments and would have 10 years to do so. Some who could prove financial hardship could have the total amount forgiven. In effect, their rent would be covered by the state. The idea will hinge on the willingness of rental property owners to cooperate and whether they see long-term tax breaks as worth the loss of short-term rental income. They're not going to see the long-term tax benefits, tax breaks, unless they got money stored like crazy. No, this is the stupidest. I'm sorry, dear reader. This is the stupidest idea because with inflation, the more money they're printing Uh, me, if I was a property owner, I'd be like, hell no, I don't want to. I need my rent now, because 10 years from now, it's not gonna be $1,000 rent that you're owed. It's gonna be like plus inflation. Let's see if they mention anything, if they're gonna adjust for inflation. Okay, so let's begin this particular sentence, or I'm sorry, paragraph. Again, under the Senate proposals, tenants would agree to reimburse the state for the rent payment and would have 10 years to do so. Some who could prove financial hardship could have the total amount forgiven. And in fact, the rent would be covered by the state. Oh, come on down. We give free healthcare to immigrants. We give free rent to everybody. Dang. Democrats, my goodness. People, if you're watching this and you're a voter in California, this should be like a big wake up call to get these Democrats out of here. I'm not like Democrat, Republican, and I'm not with that BS. I'm down with people who are down to put in work. Like the last time that we were running for, they were voting for governor, and I voted for the Republican dude because he was the guy talking sense. He was in San Diego. He's based, I forgot his name, but he was running against Newsom, and he was making sense to me. I was like, yeah, we should be fiscally conservative. But no, we're liberal AF. The idea will hinge on the willingness of rental property owners to cooperate and whether they see the long-term tax breaks as worth the loss of short-term rental income. Atkins said she is optimistic, arguing that landlords benefit by keeping their properties occupied. Sure. When you have a new when you have to find a new tenant, that's not an easy process. She said the economic stabilization plan crafted by Senate Democrats in response to the COVID-19 pandemic is even more ambitious. It would offer any California taxpayer, from individuals to large corporations, a chance to prepay a decade's worth of income for a slight discount. In total, the state would offer $30 billion in long-term tax credits for $25 billion in upfront cash. In essence, it would be a cash advance on long-term state tax revenues, using the money to fund short-term economic relief programs, which could include small business assistance and relief for local governments. It's really a 21st century New Deal. Great. Said Senator Bob Hertzberg, another Democrat out of Van Nuys. We've got to get money into the system. Taxpayers, let's talk about taxpayers, could use the vouchers to cover taxes owed in those future years or sell them sooner to investors. That could make the documents available to a variety of investors, said John C. Carson Jr., the president of Raymond James Financial. If the state were to issue such a security that could be bought and sold in the secondary market, we expect that there could be strong interest from institutions and other investors, he said in his statement. By accelerating the collection of tax revenues that would otherwise be paid more slowly, the program would mean less government cash for future lawmakers to spend. Senate budget staffers estimate a $3 billion a year decrease in available revenues from 2024 through 2033. They do not believe the program would affect tax dollars that are constitutionally guaranteed for public schools, because the vouchers would be counted as part of annual tax proceeds when cashed in. Such a calculation could, however, direct a larger amount of actual tax revenue toward school in those years and away from other programs. Other key questions will need to be addressed. It's likely that it will be easier to create a $25 billion economic recovery fund envisioned as being collected over as much as 2 years than determining which of the state's many needs should get the help and which ones would be left out. A document provided by the Times by Senate Democrats offers an early set of suggestions, including worker restraining, expedited infrastructure projects, wildlife prevention, and homelessness assistance. Atkins insisted the priorities would be clear. It's got to be tied to the economy and the critical needs, she said. It is also unknown how the two relief proposals will play either with Newsom or in the state assembly to have an immediate effect. Both will have to be considered alongside a budget deficit plan that must be approved by the legislature no later than June 15. Democrats hold a supermajority of seats in both houses and could, in theory, approve both plans without Republican votes. There it is. So, mind you, dear reader, that we are at I think it was a 54, they said, $54 billion deficit. And in layman terms, if you don't know what a deficit is, it's think about it this way. The money coming in Cali, let's say we need $100 billion a year to keep our economy afloat, to pay all our bills as a state, as like, you know how you have your household. Think of California as a big old household, and we get, I don't know, 100 billion a year, and it costs us $50 billion a year to pay all our bills, the rent and everything as a household. So we have extra 50 billion, right? To play around with, save up, whatever. Right now, there's $54 billion missing in the household income, in the California economy, in the gross domestic product. The gross domestic product, we don't have numbers yet. That's coming soon, I'm sure. But the difference of the bills that we owe and the money coming in is $54 billion. So it's like we're in a hole of $54 billion, dear reader, here in this state in California. I'm in California, by the way. And they're talking about 25 billion program. So, okay, 54 billion plus 25 billion. They're going to be taxing your children's children, because that's almost $80 billion. They'll just pass, they'll say, hey, well, because coronavirus is not a 10% sales tax. Now it's 15% sales tax every time you want to buy something at the store. And the more they do that, the faster I'm going to run out of here. As much as I love this state, man, Texas is looking pretty cool right now. All right. It's also unknown how the two relief proposals will play, either with Newsom or in the state assembly, to have an immediate effect. Both will have to be considered alongside a budget deficit plan that must be approved by the legislature no later than June 15. Democrats hold a supermajority of seats in both houses and could, in theory, approve both plans without Republican votes. For those legislators who were in office during the last recession or whose service began for those legislators who were in office during the last recession or whose service began in its immediate aftermath, the idea of thinking outside the conventional world of government might hold a special appeal. You have to think differently, Atkins said. You have to rethink, reshape, and be willing to adjust and consider new options. Because the world is different. The world has been upended. Whatever, Atkins, you don't know nothing. John Myers joined the LA Times as Sacramento bureau chief in 2015 and has spent more than 2 decades covering California politics, state government, and elections. So John Myers knows a little something about California politics. And the rant now. Lazy ass Noah. Didn't even want to give his last name. I wouldn't either want to give my last name. I don't want nobody to know how lazy I am. I don't want to pay rent. What kind of BS is that? Anyways, dear reader, let me know what you think in the comment section. And thank you again for tuning in. And stay tuned. We got more truth coming. Okay? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. Sharing is caring.